Imagine if a single country could flip a switch and plunge an entire continent into darkness and cold. That's exactly the power Russia held over Europe for decades through natural gas exports. With over 40% of Europe's gas coming from Russia, Vladimir Putin wielded energy like a sword, cutting off supplies to punish enemies. This is how geography and pipelines created the ultimate geopolitical weapon. Russia sits on 24% of the world's natural gas reserves, concentrated in massive Siberian fields. The Soviet Union began building this energy relationship during the Cold War with the Brotherhood Pipeline in 1967. Geography made Europe the perfect customer, just across flat terrain from Russia's gas fields, making pipeline construction feasible and economical. By 2021, Germany imported 55% of its gas from Russia, while Hungary and Slovakia relied on Russia for over 80%. This wasn't accidental. European nations saw Russian gas as reliable and cheap, while Russia viewed exports as crucial foreign currency and geopolitical leverage. Russia first demonstrated gas as a weapon during the 2006 Ukraine crisis. When Ukraine refused massive price increases, Russia turned off the taps on January 1st, leaving millions without heating in winter. But pipelines to Europe ran through Ukraine, so the shutdown affected Slovakia, Hungary, and Poland too. Russia repeated this in 2009, cutting gas for 13 days during one of the coldest winters on record. The message was clear: cross Russia and freeze in the dark. European officials condemned the cuts but privately drew a different lesson: better to deal directly with Russia and bypass unreliable transit countries. Russia's solution was brilliant: build pipelines that bypass transit countries entirely. Nord Stream 1, completed in 2011, runs 1,222 kilometers across the Baltic Sea directly to Germany, completely bypassing Poland and Ukraine. From Russia's perspective, this eliminated unreliable transit countries. From Germany's perspective, it provided direct Russian gas access. But Eastern European nations correctly recognized being bypassed reduced their importance and left them vulnerable to Russian pressure. Before we dive into how Russia exploited these vulnerabilities with new pipeline projects, I want to hear your perspective. Do you think Europe was naive to become so dependent on Russian energy, or was it a rational economic choice that just backfired? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more analysis of how geography shapes geopolitics. Nord Stream 2 became the most controversial pipeline in European history. The $11 billion second line would have doubled direct Russian gas imports to Germany. The US, Poland, Ukraine, and Baltic states fiercely opposed it as a geopolitical project designed to undermine European unity. Germany defended it as purely commercial, insisting business should remain separate from politics. The Trump administration imposed sanctions, effectively halting construction and creating a NATO diplomatic crisis. Just before Russia's 2022 invasion, Germany suspended the project indefinitely. Russia's invasion of Ukraine triggered the most dramatic energy restructuring in European history. Nations that had spent decades building dependence on Russian gas suddenly faced the challenge of finding alternatives almost overnight. Liquefied natural gas, LNG, became the primary alternative to Russian pipeline gas. European countries launched a crash program to build LNG import terminals, sign long-term supply contracts with alternative suppliers, and develop the infrastructure needed to process seaborne gas imports. The transformation has been remarkable. Germany, which had no LNG terminals in 2022, rapidly constructed floating storage and regasification units to import American, Qatari, and other LNG supplies. The Netherlands expanded its LNG capacity dramatically, while Poland accelerated construction of permanent LNG facilities. European LNG imports increased by over 60% in 2022 alone, with the United States becoming Europe's largest gas supplier for the first time in history. Qatar, Australia, and Algeria also dramatically increased exports to European markets, though at significantly higher prices than previous Russian supplies. The diversification extends beyond LNG. European nations have accelerated renewable energy deployment, increased energy efficiency measures, and even temporarily returned to coal power to reduce gas dependence. Heat pump installations have surged as households seek alternatives to gas heating. Industrial demand destruction has also played a role. Energy-intensive industries like aluminum smelting and chemical production have reduced operations or relocated to regions with cheaper energy, representing a fundamental shift in European industrial structure. Breaking free came at enormous costs. European gas prices increased 500% at peak in 2022, triggering the worst energy crisis since the 1970s oil shocks. Household bills skyrocketed, forcing governments to spend hundreds of billions on subsidies. Industrial competitiveness suffered dramatically. European manufacturers now pay 3–5 times more for gas than American counterparts, with some relocating production permanently. The rush to replace Russian gas also led to increased coal use and delayed nuclear closures. The end of Russian gas dependence reshaped global relationships. The US emerged as a major European energy supplier, while Middle Eastern nations like Qatar gained enormous leverage as swing suppliers. Russia was forced to redirect exports toward Asia at reduced prices. Energy security returned as a primary European foreign policy concern for the first time since the Cold War. Now, Russia's weaponization of energy offers several crucial lessons for global energy security. First, excessive dependence on any single supplier, especially an authoritarian regime, creates unacceptable vulnerabilities regardless of economic benefits. Second, energy infrastructure is inherently political infrastructure. Pipelines, terminals, and processing facilities aren't just commercial assets, they're instruments of state power that can be weaponized during conflicts. Third, energy transitions must consider security implications alongside economic and environmental factors. Europe's renewable energy goals were admirable, but the interim dependence on Russian gas created strategic vulnerabilities. Looking ahead, Europe faces the challenge of building energy security while maintaining affordability and meeting climate goals. This triple challenge requires massive investments in renewable energy, storage capacity, and grid flexibility. The geopolitical implications extend beyond Europe. Other regions are examining their own energy dependencies and considering whether economic efficiency justifies potential security risks. Russia's energy weapon ultimately backfired spectacularly. By weaponizing gas supplies, Moscow destroyed a lucrative export market and accelerated European energy independence. What began as Russia's greatest source of leverage over Europe has become a cautionary tale about the limits of resource-based power. However, the costs of breaking free have been enormous, and the transition is far from complete. Europe's energy future will depend on successfully building secure, affordable, and clean energy systems that reduce dependence on authoritarian suppliers. The broader lesson extends beyond energy to all critical supply chains. In an era of great power competition, economic interdependence can quickly become economic weaponization. Nations must balance efficiency gains from specialization against security risks from excessive dependence. What do you think about Europe's energy transformation? Was the previous dependence on Russian gas a strategic mistake, or a reasonable policy that was derailed by unpredictable events? How should nations balance economic efficiency with security concerns in critical sectors? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this analysis of energy geopolitics insightful, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into how resources shape global power. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.